I have a question, not just for you, for all three of you, that I didn't plan to ask, but now that we've been talking about Elohim and the multiple meaning of the word Elohim, as we know, uh, Samuel's spirit was called Elohim when he was summoned. So my question is, once when we pass away in glory, I hope no one from our ancestors will be summoning us, but still, can our spirits be called Elohim with small e? It's just a question that popped out once because we were just talking about Samuel like 10 minutes ago.
Yeah, I think so. I think that this is just speaking off the cuff in my kind of personal opinion, but it's kind of hard to understand the nature of a person, right? As far as what the Bible says, we tend to think of people as we are, spirits and bodies, and sometimes we'll think we are three-part being, spirit, body, and soul. All of that. But it seems to me like in the Old Testament, because I've just been reading a lot about death at the underworld right now. It seems like the idea that we have of shades is maybe a better idea of thinking about dead people in the Old Testament prior to Christ. Like after Christ, Christ has harrowed hell, so there's something that happened there that has, and that's been talked about here on the channel. So there's a difference between what we have in the Old Testament and what we have now. So I think that we wouldn't we would probably still be called Elohim, but that's the Hebraic term, kind of in the Hebraic Old Testament mindset. So there might be a bit of a distinction or break there. I don't know.
I don't have much to add to that. I would agree. I think that's a very good way of putting it.
I think I would make one distinction maybe is that I'm not sure if they would necessarily refer to all the dead spirits in the Old Testament as Elohim, but certainly certain people and roles. Obviously Samuel, pretty powerful, and there's maybe a little bit of a guessing game as to whether it was actually Samuel or a spirit looking like Samuel or the Lord himself as Samuel kind of thing going on. I think if we want to carry that over to the New Testament, I would say people like the 24 elders would definitely fall in that category. Those are human spirits, but they've got the authority, divine counsel thing going on, and they would fit in there. We also get some stuff too, like John the Baptist as the herald of Christ is also operating the spirit of Elijah, right? That's who that is. So you get a carryover, and again, we see this. I don't know it super well, but you see that in Orthodox and sort of Catholic traditions where you get named after like a namesake. You take on a name because you're operating that spirit. It's because they have some kind of authority in heaven. I would call those people kind of fitting in the Elohim category.
Mm-hmm. I know that there's things like in the Old Testament where it talks about if a servant has reached their place where they could be set free and they want to stay, you're supposed to take them before the gods of the house and put an awl in their ear. So I don't know if we can differentiate and say only people with a certain role would be considered Elohim and others wouldn't be in the Old Testament. But I would concede definitely to your point in the New Testament, where you start seeing, if you have a divine council worldview, where the dead or those that have fallen asleep are now in a position like the 24 elders or the innumerable number of saints below the throne. Then, yeah, I think that would be a good correlation where it might be an easier distinction in the New Testament than it would be in the Old.
Yeah, I think ultimately we we just need to realize there's a hierarchy,
Mm-hmm.
and that can include people as far as being Elohim. There could be higher level people and lower level people. I mean, that's just a guess. We don't really have any data for that specifically, but we do see that there is a hierarchy in the spiritual realm, and so it makes perfect sense that that just kind of follows through, especially when you talk about job functions and roles and things like that.